Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach and today I am driving a 2019 Vanderhall Venice. Up front is a 1.4 liter turbocharged inline 4 and down below is a 6-speed automatic transmission. Now I am super excited to be driving this Vanderhall Venice because A, I've never driven one, but B, I've driven this vehicle's competitor, the Polaris Slingshot. And so today we're not only going to be doing some comparing and contrasting, but we also have some very beautiful scenery to play with here today as we are just outside Las Vegas, Nevada. But if you'd like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. But let's get back to that 1.4 liter turbocharged inline 4. Well, I would love to show it to you, however, the Vanderhall's hood is bolted down. So I don't have the tools out here in the desert to unbolt the hood, so you'll just have to take my word for it, but I hope this beautiful driving footage will suffice. It is a GM-sourced 1.4 liter, and that will kind of be a running theme throughout the rest of the video, but it is turbocharged and it makes 180 horsepower, which is more than plenty for this very lightweight vehicle. You will notice it has a big intercooler up at the front, and it makes beautiful turbo noises while driving. Like I said, paired to it is a 6-speed automatic transmission. Now, the interesting thing about this is that there's actually two different ways to shift it. Off to your left is a plus-minus shifter. When in manual mode, you can hit up for upshift and down for downshift. However, if you just want to drive it in automatic mode, get reverse, neutral, or park, that is actually found in between the seats. So there are two different shifters here for the Vanderhall Venice, which is pretty sweet. Honestly, I found myself plus-minusing once or twice throughout the 9 hours I had this thing. So it's cool that it has it, and I guess it can sort of satisfy that clickiness through the canyons if you want, but honestly, I left it in automatic the whole time. It was fine enough. The 6-speed is a little bit laggy, but honestly, I'm not gonna knock it for that. Last but not least, this actually is front-wheel drive. So both front wheels are powered to put that 180 horsepower down, meaning you do a lot less burnouts than the Polaris Slingshot. It's a little more steady, but in the canyons, it definitely handles more Honda Civic than Ford Mustang, if that makes sense. How does it feel to drive the Vanderhall Venice? It is absolutely awesome. First of all, of course, obviously, it's a giant open-air experience. You get to enjoy the sights around you, of which I have very good ones today. But also, it's quick, it sounds great, it's easy to drive. This does have traction control, which is very nice. And overall, it just is such a joy to drive this vehicle. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 4 gauges. Off to the left is the speedometer, in the center is the fuel, and off to the right is the tachometer with coolant temperature, and you do get a little quartz clock down below. The steering wheel is a Vanderhall Venice specific steering wheel, however, no airbag because this is technically an auto cycle, and so it doesn't have to conform to the same safety regulations that a lot of full-size cars actually do. Off to the left, you will find the key for the ignition, that's where you turn the vehicle on, and your heated seat button. So this does have heated seats, which is very nice for driving on a chillier night. However, those are few and far between out here. Then we do have where the door would be. This is your plus-minus shifter. If you want to shift up and down, it's very cool. You can do it, and it's found over here. Moving into the center, we have a very weird gauge. This is what gear you're in. So as you go up the gears, the gauge actually goes 2nd gear, 3rd gear, 4th gear, 5th gear, 6th gear. Why it needs this, I don't really know. I guess for the plus minusing, but it's a little bit funny. Down below, we do have a volume knob and some air buttons. This fan switch looks like it's out of a vintage Volkswagen. Then we have a bunch of unlabeled buttons. All the way off to the left, this switch will actually power on the radio. It does have Bluetooth, however, there is no interface. You run the volume through your phone, and you do have some controls like we saw in between those ventilation switches. However, that's it. The rest of these, I have no idea what they do. Here is them labeled after the fact because as of driving, I don't actually know what they do. Down below, we do have 2 climate vents, and on the floor, we do have a cup holder that surprisingly passes the big friggin' bottle test. I never would have guessed that one. And then we do have the shifter in between the seats. It is in a really odd, really uncomfortable spot. However, you touch it once and then the rest of your drive, you don't have to deal with it, so it is out of the way, and you do have a parking brake. And again, if you want a plus minus, you have a different shifter to do that. The seats have actually relatively been comfortable for what this vehicle is. Obviously, I'm not sinking into them. I don't have a massage feature or anything like that, but they are heated, which I did have to turn on once. And I drove this on the highway, 80 miles an hour over bumps. These are actually pretty big wins. Now, the interior space is very cramped. As compared to the Polaris Slingshot, this is more cramped. So if you're a bigger fellow like me, or you just drive people around a lot, the Slingshot is going to be more comfortable for 2 people to sit side by side. However, we're not really rating this on comfort, but that's just my thoughts. You do have some storage cubbies behind the seats, but it is so incredibly minimal, way less than the Polaris Slingshot. The Slingshot had those big helmet cubbies. This has none of that. And of course, no trunk. But now we have to talk about the looks. It looks absolutely killer. It kind of looks like a 1930s land speed record car. It kind of looks like a hot rod. It looks like this sort of, 1940s, 50s bullet style. It has the hidden headlight. I love the way this looks. I think this looks tremendously better than the Polaris Slingshot, and it has attracted so much attention. Not that the Slingshot doesn't, but I actually came out of a gift shop here in Valley of Fire State Park. There was a group of tourists taking pictures with the car. She had her arm up on it and everything, which was a little strange, but she was so fascinated. And then when she saw it was my car, she was like, oh my gosh, can we take pictures with it? And I'm like, yeah, I don't care. So that's how attractive this car was. Every time I stopped, someone asked, what was it? How much are they? Is it powerful? Is it fun? Mostly just what the heck is that thing? And so this does garner a lot of attention. Again, not that the Slingshot doesn't, but I think this looks a little bit classier and people expect it to be vintage when it actually isn't. So that has been a really, really fun part of this car. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving my first Vanderhall, a Vanderhall Venice from 2019? Well, there's a couple of things I really, really like and a couple of downsides for sure. Honestly, the only downside has been the interior space. This does feel smaller and more cramped than the Slingshot. If you want to do longer trips, which I don't know why you would be picking between these two vehicles, but if you wanted to do a longer trip, the Slingshot genuinely is the better option for that. It rides a little bit nicer as well. But there are so many upsides of this. First of all, that drivetrain, those boost noises are so incredibly good. The power is great. I love that it's front wheel drive. It's not belt driven, and that's the other thing. GM parts. I'm not really worried about reliability with this because I'm not going to buy this as my only car. No one is going to buy this as their only mode of transportation. And so the 1.4 turbo isn't the most reliable thing in the world, but you're going to be able to get parts for it. The 6-speed you're going to be able to get parts for. It's not belt driven, so you don't have to worry about that. I forgot to mention with the interior, but the turn signal stalk is out of a Chevy product, and it still has the menu button and select buttons from Chevys, although it doesn't do anything in this car, which I just found amusing. And honestly, for the original MSRP of around $30,000, this is pretty on par with a lot of the Slingshots. I don't know. I might take this. Livability-wise is a little bit worse than Slingshot, but I do think that this is just cooler. It's more fun, and I am just so in love with those boost noises and how this thing drives. I mean, come on! And so I've learned two things here today. First of all, Vanderhalls are pretty cool. They're a lot of fun. But the second thing, arguably unrelated, please, if you're in the Las Vegas area, it's an hour off of the Strip, This is Valley of Fire State Park, and it is just so gorgeous. It has been so beautiful all day today. It is stunning. Get out here, drive these roads. These roads are fantastic, whether you do it in a Vanderhall or a Slingshot or your mom's Toyota Corolla. Get out here and enjoy this beautiful scenery and this beautiful state park here in Nevada. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys learned something about the Vanderhall, and if not, maybe at least you enjoyed some boost noises. Take care, everyone.